we have taken the last boat rides we should ever take. And like he said, it's very serious. One thing I want to do with a bit of hope, since we understand this, is a bit of hope. We got a group of African brothers that is scaring the hell out of the white man by the name of the Dogon tribe in what we call the French Sudan, or what we call Mali in West Africa. And this Dogon tribe is fascinating because they live every day of their lives to bring on this event. Every day of their lives. They don't live 1 minute outside of doing what they're supposed to do. Unlike most people, we do have some brothers and sisters on the continent. And we have a small group of brothers and sisters here, whether you be one or whether you be 50, that are dedicated to the preservation of liberation. No, by any means necessary, and no compromise.
Well,
This Dogon group of brothers are descendants of the ancient Egyptians or the ancient Hemmites. This Dogon group of people, I think it's about, what, about 4,000?
it's about 10,000.
About 10,000, okay. About 10,000 of these brothers and sisters that have no type of love for any type of Western civilization or any type of modernization in the realms of what the white man calls his materialism. These brothers and sisters, when the Arabs invaded in, let's say a little after the 6th century, invaded and swept Africa, these brothers and sisters say that we would rather move and go underground just to preserve this knowledge. Also, these people say that what we would do, being the brilliant people that Africans are, they say, well, we would just go savage or make them think that we savage, so when the Arabs come up on them, they go, hey, they don't have a doggone thing that we want, and they'll leave them alone. And as a result, they was able to preserve this knowledge for at least 700 or 800 years. And this knowledge on the about the Dogon is the most scientific knowledge, so scientific until the European astronomers and the European scientists say, you just did not doubt the Dogon. Everything they do is precise in the mathematics, in the science, and in the knowledge to this day. And to doubt them is to be a fool. But it's one thing about this. Let's go into the science. Number one, you have, let me spell it right, you have the star Sirius. The star Sirius. Now the star Sirius is the sun behind the sun. Mae Blavatsky, in her book Secret Doctrines, Volume 2, said if we're going to look for heaven, as well as what the Egyptians told them, or the Kemites told them, if we're going to look for heaven, we would have to say that it would be the place that is almost 16 times greater than our sun. Our sun being how many times greater, we estimate, than the earth? 1 million times greater. Now, I don't think it's that much. We burn up around here. And check that. Anyway, it's called the sun behind the sun. And also, by it becoming or being called the sun behind the sun, what it is that we have a sun. And our sun rotates around Sirius. It takes it 26,000 years to complete that orbit. Now, one thing about this Sirius. Sirius was known in the ancient world as the great provider. What Sirius would do in the summer solstice months, it would come down, it would rise at the horizon, and it would flood the Nile Valley. The Nile Valley would vegetate Africa, which is the origin of, we would say, the origin of Western civilization as well as African civilization and the origin of agriculture. It would cultivate the Nile Valley, they would grow the food, and they would build a civilization based on the magnitude of what we would say, the magnitude of vegetation, or we would say agriculture. So this is the great provider to earth. Now, one thing about the Dogon tribe that they told the white boys, they say, listen, there's a smaller star, Sirius B. And Sirius B rotates or wobbles around Sirius A. One thing about Sirius B is no human eye can pick this thing up. The white boys had to later develop a telescope to find out about Sirius B. They say, well, wait a minute, how did this primitive tribe understand this type of information? Then they say, hey, we think some French travelers or some white boys gave it to them. Get Carl Sagan and his old fool behind it. Say that they gave it to them, saying that there's no way that this tribe, which is a derogatory term, could even have this type of information. But the fact of the matter is, when we see that vast land we call Kemet or Africa, Egypt as you know it, and we marvel at the greatness, you best believe when they went, they left custodians of the secret knowledge right there on the continent of Africa. Now the funny thing about this, it is not so much of the science. They say, okay, Africa has been baffling us for years with the greatness, but it's the mythology, it's the thing that hurts these white boys. And the mythology goes like this. You have in the book The Pale Fox, I'm going to write this down. I'm going to write the name of the people. The Pale Fox, if you can get it, but I'll tell you another book that you can get that will go into this, because the white boys, when they printed this book in English for the first time in 1986, they said that one day this book will be, based on it was so, it took so much money to make because it has color pictures and graphs. They said that it might, based on the amount of money that people spend to buy the book, will determine whether we print this book later on. Well, we were ignorant at the time and we didn't buy it, and well, the white people bought it and all, but then again, they had known about it even when it was in French a couple of years before. So the book is now out of print, but I'll give you another source about the book. Now, going into this, the name of the people is Marcel Raoul and Germain Dietrich, the name of the French anthropologist that went in the 1930s. They went down and they studied these people for 16 years, and they only got to the lower part of what they call the heavens. But they gave them enough information, and they published this book, The Pale Fox. But it's the mythology that's scaring this white boy. Now let's get into this. Number one, we have the great god or goddess, Amma. I always say goddess because my goddess, or my god, is the feminine principle. Hey, your god might be masculine. That works for you fine. Mine is a feminine principle. The great god or goddess Amma created the world. In that, she created her first son after creating the universe. You see how this story transcends and it sounds almost the same as the Bible? And we have these stories that almost are verbatim all around the world because we have 16 crucified saviors. And we have resurrections all over the earth. So don't just say that, hey, my God is the only one that resurrected, because you stand mistaken, because your God is a late God in history. And that fable that we go by called the Bible is late in history. As a matter of fact, we can say that historical fable in the Bible, the Judeo-Christian religion, comes after half of human history was over. Three-fourths. Now you mean to tell me that we lived on the earth for 3/4 amount of time? And like Maulana Karenga said, and God didn't talk to us. He gonna wait till he get to a nomadic group of people that got kicked out of Kemet, our own brothers and sisters, to give us the scripture to talk to us. God didn't talk to us for that other point in time. And we know now that it goes back millions of years. When we go back to Lemuria, and Atlantis is really a code word for the black man's home all over the globe, more than some place that's sunk in the bottom of the ocean. That's right. Well, you understand what I'm saying? But going back to this fable, we have Amma who creates the world. Then she creates the first son, Oku. Same fable as I told you last week about the great mother Tyre, and create the first son, Sut, or Set Typhon. Amma creates the world and she creates her first son, Ogu. But she said, listen, you are half a person. Listen up close. She said, I now have to create your spiritual side. So I'm going to create you another brother. Then I'm going to create two female halves. Man is not man, not unless man is half woman. Woman is not woman, not unless woman is half man. Duality. I'm going to create your second female side out of these two twins. That is your spiritual side. Ogu got a little impatient, a little anxious. And he couldn't wait around until she created the brother and created the two twins. So he leaped forth. Now this leap forth is nothing but a scientific term housed in mythology to talk about a genetic mutation. You understand? So he leaped forth into the universe, and his name is the Pale Fox. Pale meaning what? White. Fox meaning this slick, sly devil. You understand? So we're not just talking about a black man up here talking about the white man. We're actually talking about what our brothers and sisters have said in the mythology, coming all the way from Kemet. This is an ancient science that we could not figure out in Kemet because Kemet is in fragments that we got right here with our brothers and sisters on the land today. Now, he's named the Pale Fox, and his name is Ogu. So she said, okay, cool. She said, well, you won't be able to create. Now, this leaping forth is called the vomit. In Egypt, Kemet is called the vomit, meaning a half a man, a mutation, only the vomit. We got into that last week. Anyway, she said you will not be able to create another life. In this mythology, he got into her womb and walked the universe until he found out the secret to create. You understand? He can create. She said, cool, but you won't be able to create one like me, the great mother, the great universe, the blackness, triple darkness of space. The microcosm of that would be what? The black man or the black man and the black woman or the black woman and the black man. That means he can only create the white man. In scientific terms, he can only reincarnate into the same beast that he always was. Now, she was going to destroy all of him and his whole creation because his placenta or his world was called the earth, which is a physical matter on the third dimension. Remember, he was talking about these dimensions and these vibrations. We'll get into the dimension, which is the physical matter. But she said, okay, I'll tell you what I'll do. Instead of destroying the earth, now doesn't this sound interesting? I will create your other brother, whose name Nomo. Nomo, and balance him with his physical half, and he will be sacrificed for you. Same kind of stories we see. The sacrifice, you know what I'm saying? You know, Jesus, he died for the world, and he died for all our sins. You understand? But in this story, we got the white boy up in here. So now we know that what's getting ready to go on is not so much of you going to hell, but that white boy going to hell. And we're going to kick his ass and give him some hell also. Now, so Nomo sacrificing is the same sacrificing as Jesus Christ, because Nomo is in the sign of a fish. This is his sign, which is what? Pisces. Remember, Jesus is in the sign of what? The fish. Now you see how these stories travel all over the world. Like I said, there's 16 crucified saviors, 17 with Nomo being sacrificed, and more than that. Now, there's only one thing about this. Ogu supposedly have an ark, but his ark is inferior. You know, like that airplane and you know, that stealth bomber and that little what you call that thing they sent up in orbit? The space shuttle, that little thing, they got a little glider and all this type of stuff. It's inferior. But Nomo has an ark also, and his ark is superior. Now I want to find this ark because I like to show this picture because it's 700 years old. 700 to 800 years old, probably older than that. This is what they can trace it back to. Now what does that look like? Looks like a spaceship. But hey, wait a minute now, that's a thing of the future. So what in the devil is a spaceship? In the Dogon's mythology, 700 to 800 years old, or let's say 1,000, because we know we can trace this all the way back to Kemet. What is it doing in there? And it says that one day, Nomo will come back and subdue his evil brother, Ogu. Now in this Dogon mythology, as well as the ancient Egyptian or ancient Kemet mythology, we have the Sirius cycle. This cycle coming every 26,000 years. Well, most of the scholars made a little mistake. They started calculating this cycle around the time of Kemet. They would say about 10,000 years ago. But what they didn't realize is Kemet borrowed this cycle, and this cycle was way older than even Kemet, and this cycle goes back to Atlantis and Lemuria, not meaning a place that sunk under the ocean. It means the black land and the black earth are nothing but black people on it before we sunk into the third dimension, the physical realm. The sinking of Atlantis is the sinking of the third dimension. I'll explain what this third dimension is. But anyway, this cycle that supposedly we say will take another couple of thousand years to come around, if we take it all the way back to Atlantis and Lemuria, where it's supposed to be, that means it's only going to touch down one time, and that is in 2000. We can basically say May 5th, or around May area of the year 2000. And supposedly this time, the Dogon, what you say?
That's round freak.
Round freak day time, huh? Right. May 5th, around 2000. So that means we got some serious times. We got some serious things to do. Because the reason why we don't take this liberation serious is for one reason. The reason why we don't take this liberation serious is because we don't think it will happen in our own lifetime. But it seems to me that's right around the same time that you'll be becoming your so-called black professionals. And you got to deal with this.